It's a real honour to be here with you, Justine, to talk about the work and to sort of have a few thoughts about your career and also about weaving and also about this particular exhibition. Maybe we can start with the tapestries here and go backwards from that and just maybe explain how they have come about.
Well, I'd say that all of my work is kind of about the landscape and environment and time. As part of that, it's kind of seasons and light play throughout the work. This series of tapestries came about really just through colour. Obviously, the tapestry is a medium that is fantastic for colour. Textiles, just in general, takes colour really, really well. It's much more arresting and real, I think, than paint or whatever. That was kind of my starting point, and I started with Midnight, Moonlight and Shadows, which is this one here. And then it's like when I actually started sort of delving into kind of what was it about certain times of the night and the kind of the colours, that landscape is a very emotional subject, and you can't be an artist and not kind of worry about what's happening with the environment at the moment. And so it made me think about the loss of our landscape around us and about how our emotions are affected by these changes that are taking place. And so this particular one is showing the light from the moon, obviously from a single light source. So the light kind of sits a bit like lines throughout the trees, and then you've got all the distortion of the shadows. Then you start sort of thinking about fear, like why are people scared of the dark? It just all kind of evolved into like quite a big piece of work. I started with one, and then it made me think of the next one, and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and sort of think, oh yeah, so this is kind of quite so it's all kind of played in together.
In terms of like the tapestry medium, you've got the loom that you use next door.
Yeah.
I just wondered if you could just explain a little bit about what drew you to tapestry and your journey to it. It seemed to be that colour was very important.
Yeah.
But was there other things?
My grandmother was a professional seamstress, and we always had her knitted blankets at home, and I kind of think that's kind of quite a funny thing, but actually it just sort of plays into your psyche. And my mum always made our clothes, and we did actually have some kind of, I don't know if they were rugs or they were machine made, but they were we had some rugs on the wall. So I suppose that's kind of part of it. And then when I went to art college, I was just drawn to textiles. I don't know what it was, but textiles was for me. And then I just got into tapestry because I went to West Surrey College of Art and Design, which was Farnham. I was always more interested in sort of the one-off, the sort of drawing and painting side. So tapestry was suggested to me, and I just took to it after that. So started weaving in the sort of mid-second year, and that was tapestry was my degree show.
Mm-hmm. And then you went to the Royal College of Art, and continued with tapestry.
Yeah. So as you mentioned before, like, I was very lucky in that Mary Farmer had taken over the tapestry department at the Royal College, and she insisted that tapestry should be viewed as an art form, and that it should be in with painting.
The degree show piece that you made is the one that's in the Craft Study Centre at the moment, called Kettles and Elements. And although I don't have a picture of it, it was from this kind of, not a similar kind of vein of work that is represented in this catalogue of other kind of household objects that have been disassembled.
In 1986, I went to see a show by Bill Woodrow, who actually shows his work here. He had a fantastic show at the Lisson Gallery, and it was very witty, and there was lots of things like he'd cut in washing machines, and it'd be sort of plays on words. And I was very interested in discarded household items, not just because of that, but just because I thought that they took on sort of like quite human characteristics. I mean, you can see from that piece, I sort of placed some of the objects within the environment. It's kind of one of those things, why I wanted to put it into tapestry. And it's kind of like that historical aspect of placing something within a textile gives it kind of, I don't know, sort of history. So that's what got me started. So I've got a whole series of tapestries with household objects and appliances. And when I got to the Royal College, I started taking things apart much more. I sort of like took lots of toaster bits apart, and I sort of drew. And in my degree show, I also had toasters and things taken apart. So
And what's curious, when I was talking to Julia, who took in the delivery and now it's at the foyer of the Craft Study Centre, and comparing it to these works, you know, you can only think, oh, they're incredibly different.
Yeah.
But you said that you feel there's a continuity between this, about landscapes of objects and environment.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I mean, I sort of think I always had a kind of horizon line within my drawings. I always wanted them, they were always placed within an environment, and I kind of think I had this, almost like I'm dissecting the elements, but I kind of think that carried on through my work. And although my kind of focus, I think my focus was quite introvert, and now I'm older, I'm sort of looking at the world more through similar eyes, and it was about kind of placing things in the environment, and it's like that dissection, I think, takes place within these works as well.
Yeah, and you kind of talked about how you disassembled the toaster, and then with the landscape you feel like you're disassembling the landscape in this recent work, or taking it apart.
Yeah, I mean, tapestry is, if you're not familiar with weaving, it's like you build everything yourself. So you make the kind of, if you think of the warp as a skeleton, you make the skeleton, and then you add flesh to the bones of it, but with your weft, and so you really do build everything. It's entirely created by you, and then if, like me, you dye all your colours, I kind of think it's such a perfect medium. So. For creativity.
Amazing for colour.
Yeah.
Very few painters who could achieve that.
No, I know. No, the power of colour in tapestry is second to none, really.
I was just going to ask a question about not the shift, but kind of when you start to get really interested in landscape that we see kind of developed in this work, and you know the how you, and also the importance of the Wiltshire landscape of this kind of area.
Yeah. Well, I had a bit of a break from tapestry for sort of various reasons, but mainly sort of financial, and so I had to give up my studio, and I'd always made quite big work. I hadn't started making smaller work at that stage, so I just had a bit of a break from it, and then when I came back to it, I knew that I wanted to do something about landscape, and I just my dad is from Wiltshire, and so there's just an area of Wiltshire that I'm particularly interested in me, and there was a sort of 5-mile radius where each season, like either the crops would change, or you would get so you'd get a variety of colours depending on what the farmers are growing, and also because the landscape is consistent. You'd get some colours the same, but some would change kind of really radically. And so I sort of played around with like these colour swatches for ages, and then I just sort of hit on having 60 colours, and I'd arrange them in colour families, and so I made up sort of the 4 seasons with the colours from this particular area of Wiltshire, and this 5-mile radius with these fields. That sort of got me back into weaving, really.
I'd love to know the story behind this piece.
Oh, so this was dusk, and I was in so it's dusk in southeast London. So I still live in London, even though I'm moving to Wiltshire quite soon. And I was in a friend's garden, and she lives in Lewisham, and there was a view over her garden to the city, and so you got this swathe of light pollution, and it just looked amazing with the sort of beautiful blue of dusk with this kind of swathe of green, and it just sort of made me think of again, sort of like going back to the environment things, just how these things kind of affect our viewpoint on our landscape.
Do you photograph at that moment, or do you just work from your memory of that moment?
I do take photographs, but it is quite difficult to take photographs of to get the actual range of colours. So I take lots of photographs, but I do a lot of it from memory. So a lot of these are just from. I do lots of drawings, and even if I don't use the drawing, it sort of informs the next drawing. So, I'll do for each piece I'll do 5 or 6 drawings until I get I might use several to sort of work to create a piece of work, but it often takes that amount of time before I'm sort of happy with kind of what I'm going to work on.
Are they sketchbook drawings or larger scale?
No, larger scale, a bit like I tend to use chalk or paint. So I make a chalk drawing generally, just because it's quick to sort of get the colour down. And then I'll do a full-scale painted cartoon, which is kind of what I tend to work from. And then it just means that you can sort of see exactly how big everything's going to be.
Thank you very much I hope you've all enjoyed today. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to Stephen, and of course to Justine, and of course to Lady Benton. Thank you.